Thanks for joining us for another edition of The Small Business Show with Jim Fitzpatrick.
Hey everyone, Jim Fitzpatrick. Thanks so much for tuning in to another edition of the Small Business Show right here at ASBN.com. Social media is a pain point for many small businesses, but it is critical to use every single day in business, as we all know. Today, we're joined by Bahn, who's the CEO of Bahn Group, a marketing and branding agency, to walk us through what small business owners need to know and what they need to be focused on with their small business branding on social media. So, Claire, thank you for joining us once again on the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Jim. I'm happy to be here.
Sure. So there's so much, going on out there, and small business owners are challenged just in running their businesses. Then when you throw on top, having an effective branding campaign on social media, they kind of look at you like, really? How are we supposed to do that and when? So how much of a role should, the various social media platforms have in branding a business?
Social media is a very important part, an aspect of a small business's brand. But one of the things to think about is it's not one of those things where you just need to post just because you have to. Because I see a lot of people will just post anything because, okay, I know that I have to do it. I don't really care what it is. And I see people do the yay me posts where it's, I have this new product, we have this new launch. It's constantly about them and their small business rather than what their client actually wants. So think about what they want, what their pain points are, what your service, product answers, helps them with. And that is how you should think about your social media, the posts that you're doing. Formulate them in a way to serve and help your ideal audience, because you want to essentially tee them up to essentially become a customer. And the only way to do that is for them to know, like, and trust you. So think of using social media in that way rather than this thing I have to do. Do it in a fun way so that you actually help people.
It almost comes across when a business owner has an approach like that or an attitude towards their social media, right? A negative attitude towards it, like you just mentioned, like, it's something I have to do. I'm really not into it. It kind of comes across in their posts, doesn't it?
It does. Yeah. It does. Well, they either do the yay me or they just kind of, punt. They just don't. Right. It's actually funny. We have like somebody that I know that is in this particular situation, and I don't make it a deal to sell friends or anything like that, but I see them doing it wrong. So if they're listening to this, I hope they take it to heart. But you really, otherwise it just doesn't make any sense, because it can actually hurt you if you don't put in the effort. If you look that you're phoning it in and you don't really care, you're not thinking about the pain points of your ideal client. And one of the things too to think about is that you should be where your ideal clients are. If they're not on TikTok, probably TikTok shouldn't be where you should be. If they're not on LinkedIn, then don't put all your focus on LinkedIn. So really think about where your ideal audience is consuming content and make sure that you are putting the right type of content out there for them to find. Sure.
Now, would it be okay, from your point of view, to maybe try TikTok? If you find that your customers are not on TikTok, for instance, would it be okay to try it to see if maybe you can pick up another market of buyers?
Of course. Yeah. Okay. But you should definitely be focused on what your intention is, right? Okay. Who is the ideal client that you're making this content for? Don't just wing it, because then you won't actually, because again, the only way to know the type of content to put out there and what it's actually going to help people is if you know who the audience is. Right. So obviously someone between the age of 13 and 18 is going to have a different pain point than someone that is 35 to 45. Right. So really think about the content that you're putting out there and make sure that content is on the right platform.
Sure. You know what I always get caught on are people that post like surveys. Companies that will post a survey that says, we want to hear from you. Would you rather A or B? Does this happen to you? We'd like to get your feedback, And it's oftentimes many of the vendors that I work with and companies that I work with, I'll actually answer those for a couple of reasons. I want to see what everyone else said, and then I also want to give back to that company to say, hey, you're looking for some input by your customer base, and I'm happy to help you with that. Is it a good idea to do something like that to build up in some engagement?
I mean, whenever we work with our clients, we always actively do polls and surveys and things like that, because again, it helps people engage. And one of the things that you're looking to do on social media is have people engage with your content. So having them push that little button or whatever it is in a story or on LinkedIn, those are really important actions that you want. So yes, anytime you can make someone stop scrolling, watch a video, swipe a carousel post, take a poll, yes, that's the type of activity that you want. And the social media platforms will reward you by showing that content to more people.
That's right. That's right. What is the time frame? If somebody, I had a friend of mine that said, Jim, I took your advice to get on social media and I did it in a big way. And, after 2 weeks, I didn't get anything from it. And I had to chuckle and say, no. It's much different than 2 weeks, okay? You don't look for responses in 2 weeks. Talk to us about what kind of the sweet spot is in terms of beginning to see some of your fruits of, your hard labor, coming back at you.
Mm-hmm. Well, if you're really starting from nothing, you don't have an audience at this point, I would say, 3 months is probably a pretty good time to really start kind of seeing some more interactions and a lot of stuff to kind of take off. Because again, the social media platforms, their whole job, their algorithm and everything, it's trying to weed out the spammy people, the fakers and things like that. So they won't give you and reward you with showing your content to more people until that you've been around for a while and you are consistent and that kind of thing. So it's consistency, it's quality of content, and it's a long-term game. Yeah. All of this is social media, branding, everything is a long-term play, and it compounds over time. So that's what you really need to think about. It's not, I'm here, where is everybody?
That's right. This reminds me of what my investment counselor told me. He said, the best time to invest was 30 years ago. The second best time is today. And this is kind of like that. Like, you should have been on social media this whole time in the last 10 or 15 years, or however long you've had your business. But the second best time to start is right now, because you could turn around a year from now and have built, quite an audience and a following, right?
Yes, exactly. That's it. Just, I think that's the kind of, I kind of think of it like, like anti-aging skincare and that kind of thing, like there was just the same kind of thing.
I was late on that too, but
you should have started 10 years ago, but you know what, just start right now. That's all that matters. Yes. That's right. All of these things have a compounding effect. Yeah. So just do it now. And I think the thing that people don't really think about, so they go into it and they're like, I don't know how to do this, but all of us are really on social media and we consume content. What is it that we like? And I'm sure exactly what I said before. It's the people out there that are actually know your pain points, are creating content to help you succeed in whatever it is that you're doing. And those are the accounts that you actually like. So a lot of times people are like, I don't know where to start. You're like, well, you actually do, because you know what you like. So do that.
That's right. And there's nothing, more frustrating than you coming across your competitor who is doing social media and you're not on there. And as much as you want to hate that person, in your heart of hearts, they're doing the right thing, right? They're out there. They've got an audience. They're competing. They're out in the marketplace with their service or product, and you're not. Right.
Yeah. But again, you can do it wrong. I said wrong in quotations, but if you are constantly talking about how great you are, or it's constantly about you and your product, that can actually turn people off. Yeah. So really just think about helping people. And then of course, once they know, like, and trust you, then ask them to go and do something for you. Hey, I'm having a sale, go check it out. Or I'm doing this, please participate, and that kind of thing. But they have to know, like, and trust you. So I think sometimes, you can look at your competition, see what they're doing well, see what they're doing wrong, and don't do that, So look at what they're doing well and maybe take that into consideration. And then what they're not doing well, definitely do not do that, right? You're like, okay, this isn't working for them, don't do that. But figure out where you can really just make your mark.
Sure. Is it okay to bring your customers into social media? I mean, so many people, and this has been over the last couple of years that they've said, hey, can you do me a favor and just hold up your phone, Jim, and send me a video about whatever it might be, whether it be something I purchased or I use their service or what have you, and just send it to us because we want to send it out on social media. And in some cases, I've done that, for companies that I feel good about. What's your take on that? Is that okay to ask customers to do that?
I think that you might be disappointed by the results. I mean, you're a professional, so your video is probably going to be pretty good.
Right.
So your average person, I do a lot of media training, and it is really hard for people to get over their phobias of that, the on button.
Yeah.
So I think it's a good idea, and maybe you'll get like a little bit of a snippet.
Yeah.
But whenever I've asked for things like that, I've been very clear, like, can you make sure you say this? Because sometimes they'll go on it, they'll just kind of go off, and you're like,
can't use it.
I really can't use any of that.
That's right. That's right. And by the way, you mentioned my competition 3 times, in the video.
Thank you.
We don't need that. But it is okay to ask for maybe written testimonials, right? That maybe you could then repost to say, hey, just wanted to, give a shout out to one of our great customers. Here's what they wrote about us. Of course, asking them, is it okay to do that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I've done that definitely. I've done that. I've actually had people just respond back and saying, hey, I used this and it was great. And then I just say, can I use this as a testimonial? So a lot of times people will just tell you they used your service or they used your program, they absolutely loved it, and they will just tell you in an email, and you can just take that. But I usually like to guide what I want in a testimonial if I can.
That's a good idea. And I think the people that giving you the testimonial want that. They're like, well, where do I start? What do you want me to say? How do I say it? So you're exactly right. If you can give them kind of a script or even an example of what somebody else did, so they feel, okay, I got it now. You want the name of your company in there, a quick thank you. We're happy with the product, and we'll come and buy all of our products from you again. Thanks so much. Done. Rather
and
than
don't
to
use,
your point.
Don't use certain words, or I think this helped me. You're like, that's not good. Yeah. So that kind of thing. That way you kind of get it focused.
Are there any social media platforms that people should not use? I mean, we're hearing different things about TikTok, obviously, where it's China's in listening to us, but 150 million people use it every day. I happen to be one of them. And so are there any that you just say, stay away from that? That's just not a great platform for small businesses to be on?
I personally, I go on TikTok and I occasionally consume content, but I don't create videos on there. I chose not to because that was not where my ideal audience is. But basically, that's what you need to focus on. Where is your ideal audience? Okay. So I wouldn't say this one's completely out. This one is completely out.
Okay.
But as we're seeing with TikTok, it's super important to diversify. I actually have a story about that. Someone came to me for personal coaching, and she had amassed a very large following, multi-hundred thousand in followers. She was a makeup artist, and we were talking about it, and I was like, I definitely think you need to be putting stuff on YouTube. And she was like, isn't YouTube dead? I'm like, no. So
it's the second largest search engine. Right?
I know. Yeah. So diversify. If you are on TikTok and all your following is on TikTok, you need to get those people off of that platform, get their email address, whatever it is, get them to go to a different platform, because if it goes away, they're gone. All that work that you did, they're gone. So that's why omnichannel, that's why being on multiple platforms is really important, because you're not, that platform doesn't own you.
Yeah, you brought up email, which that's a whole nother show that we want to bring you in on, how to do email properly, and the kind of the do's and don'ts, and where you see that fitting into an effective marketing and branding campaign. So Claire Bahn, CEO of Claire Bahn Group. Check them out online. She's the real deal, as you can see. This is why we love having her in on the show. So thank you so much, Claire, for taking the time out of your busy schedule to join us once again.
Yeah, thank you so much, Jim. It was great being here.
Great, thank you.
Thanks for joining us for another edition of The Small Business Show with Jim Fitzpatrick. This has been a JBF Business Media production.